That's quite a far drop, Tony, from being the presumed number 2 QB and the number 2 pick in the draft now to being talked about in the mid-teens. Hello, everybody, and welcome to PFN's NFL Draft Insiders. I'm Matt Canada, CEO of Pro Football Network. I'm joined here with Tony Pauline, our chief draft analyst and NFL insider. Tony, once again, another week closer to the 2021 NFL Draft, another week closer to NFL free agency, another week closer to Pro Days. We'll have a lot of news coming up here on Draft Insiders. How are you tonight, and are you ready to go?
I am. I'm also ready for another snowstorm here in the Northeast. I guess we dodged one here that went a little bit south of us. I talked to a couple of people in Texas today who have no electric because the power grid shut down. And a lot of people, a lot of guys out there, a lot of draft prospects out in the state of Texas who are training for what are hopefully pro day workouts. So it's been an interesting winter on top of all the COVID, all the snow, and all this crazy weather.
Of course, our thoughts are with everyone down in Texas as they deal with this brutal storm they're experiencing. And you're right, I'm in Connecticut, and you're up here in the Northeast as well, and we are getting ready for almost a foot of snow tomorrow. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Who knows how accurate the weathermen are going to be. Who knows how accurate the mock draft analysts are going to be as well, Tony. I mean, let's talk about Justin Fields here. Before the season started, people were saying Justin Fields is the number 2 quarterback in the NFL draft. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And then we saw Zach Wilson starting to play, and everyone started to shift their opinions there on Zach Wilson a little bit and said, okay, maybe he could be QB2. And then it started going on some more and more and more. And then we're like, okay, Zach Wilson is QB2. And then the reports coming out earlier today, actually, that some teams prefer Zach Wilson over Trevor Lawrence, which is figure out what that means. That's probably coming from the teams in the top 5 who want people to trade up with them so they can get Zach Wilson or whatnot. But the focus continues to be on Justin Fields. And part of that focus is he's falling down some of the draft boards in terms of the media talk, in terms of what we're hearing around league circles. What are you hearing, Tony, on the latest on Justin Fields, his NFL draft stock, and is it really falling?
Yeah, well, let's go back a little bit. I mean, there were people at some point in time wondering, can Justin Fields close the gap to Trevor Lawrence? I've stated all along that's not going to happen. I also don't believe there's any team out there that has Zach Wilson graded ahead of Trevor Lawrence, just for the record. I have been told by a few people that they feel they're seeing Justin Fields fall down some draft boards. And the main concern is, they've told me Justin Fields stares down the primary target. He doesn't look away from the primary target. He doesn't process things as quickly as they want him to. Now, we talked about the difference between Justin Fields processing things and Zach Wilson processing things back in October, November, when I was with Andy Herman, and we talked about Zach Wilson's meteoric rise to the top of draft charts. We also talked, if you remember, during the Senior Bowl, I had mentioned how there was one team who broke down all of Justin Fields' passes in 2020, and they said just 7 times he looked off the primary target. The other 200 plus passes he threw to his primary target. I at the time said we don't know whether it was the fact that the 200 plus times his primary target was open, and there was only 7 times that he really had to look off look away from his primary target. But there are some people out there that are telling me Justin Fields has fallen down their boards because they think while he is a great physical specimen and he's got a tremendous arm strength and he's a great arm talent, I think there's a concern there about staring down the primary target and not being able to process things that quickly. I don't know that I fully agree with that, but that is the word from some teams out there.
And you had a report on ProFootballNetwork.com several weeks ago coming out of the Senior Bowl that one team, their analytics department, had studied every throw that Justin Fields made. And I think it was like 7 times only out of all the throws he made, he looked beyond that primary target. And it's interesting, too. Lance Zierlein of NFL.com, in his most recent mock draft, I believe it was his most recent mock draft, had Justin Fields dropping all the way to the mid-teens. I believe it was 15, and I believe he had the Patriots selecting Justin Fields. That's quite a far drop, Tony, from being the presumed number 2 QB and the number 2 pick in the draft now to being talked about in the mid-teens.
And I'll tell you this, Lance Zierlein's one of the few guys who, when he says something, you know it's legitimate. You know there's some credibility or there's some backing to it. I've known Lance for years now. We exchange information oftentimes, and he's a guy who's trustworthy. So when Lance is saying that, or Lance has Justin Fields as the 15th pick of round 1, There's a reason why.
And we'll have to see, obviously, as we go through this process here. There's no combine, but there will be pro days. I'm not sure how much. Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. I'm not sure how much more Justin Fields can do, if he can do anything. At this point, it's about the tape, it's about the interviews and so forth. But Zach Wilson is picking up plenty of steam, rising up the draft boards in the media's eyes, at least. And he's probably always been high on the NFL team's draft boards. But we'll have to see how that shakes out.